All right, welcome back. This is the last portion of the day. I'm so glad that everyone has stuck with us. It is great that you guys have made it through 6 hours and 46 minutes of a virtual conference. I want to give a little background on this talk and what's going to occur. We invited Sarah Trotman about a year and a half ago to present with us at this conference when it was going to be the live event. And of course, because of COVID-19, that canceled the live event. We also, Sarah Trotman, Rhino, Rachel Taylor, and I were going to present at CalABA, and we had an idea to present a talk, behavior analysts at a bar. And what we were going to do at this talk in CalABA was going to be talk about issues that we found that were important to the day and talk about those issues and solutions to those issues at a bar that Sarah said she was going to make on stage. I would have loved to have seen that at CalABA. Well, unfortunately, CalABA got canceled because of coronavirus. And so when we were talking about pivoting this conference, Sarah came up with the idea to do behavior analysts in a virtual bar. So that's what this talk is going to be. It's going to be a virtual bar. So I have white and I have red, depending what mood I'm in. And we are going to talk about issues that concern behavior analysts. And the reason why we're talking about the bar scene is not that we're promoting drinking. You can drink or not drink. It's up to you. But we think that some of the best conversations don't happen just at the talks themselves. They're the after talks. They're that when you're social with each other and that you're mingling and you're talking, you're going over what you heard and what's going on in your practice. That's when some of the best ideas and conversations come about. So with that, we have Sarah presenting, Sarah Trotman and Rachel Taylor presenting, and it was just going to be the two of them, but they asked that myself and Joe present with them. So we are kind of the tag-alongs with Sarah and Rachel and the brilliant work that they do and what they're going to say. And I hope this last 90 minutes will be very engaging and fun for all of you. So with that, I'm calling Sarah and whoever else is coming up on screen. Right, there's Rachel.
Hey.
There's Joe.
Hello, hello.
Like a high school dance right now with boys on one side, girls on the other. Here we go.
Oh my gosh, this is so great. Excuse me. Here's my drink, Rachel. Where's yours?
It's apple juice. I told you, it is apple juice.
Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted. First and foremost, Joe and Justin, you guys pulled this off. I know that you were so anxious about this, and Justin, you've been so great about sending all of us emails and being continually flexible and innovative in how you were going to execute this conference. And I just really want to congratulate you.
Oh, I just thought, not to cut you off, Sarah, but we need a starting keyword.
Oh, a starting. Do I get to make it up? Can I make it up now?
I have the keyword.
Oh, okay. Because I'm going to say something inappropriate if it's my keyword. Okay, go ahead.
No. Yeah, yours might be. Mine's not going to be. The keyword is beast. Beast. Like he is a beast or she is a beast or beast from the X-Men. Beast. B-E-A-S-T.
Or Marshawn Lynch is always in beast mode. Like, let's pull in some sports here.
Don't you live in San Francisco? Should you not?
Some Raider pride. Don't hate.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, Michael O'Riordan said, is anyone old enough to remember Hollywood Squares? Michael, all of us are old enough to remember Hollywood Squares, and this is exactly what we're doing now.
Say the least.
Just a little less famous.
Yeah. Actually, you want to hear something crazy?
What?
True story. My mom was on Hollywood Squares. She won a car. I'm serious.
Wow.
I swear. In the early 80s. Yeah, so thank you. Can we just talk about that this whole time? Because I'm actually nervous. Okay.
Yes. Okay, so you guys, this is what we are going to do. I have a PowerPoint that I would like to share with everyone just to provide a little more context in terms of what we want to talk about and to just provide some new data from the Behavior Analyst Certification Board, just in terms of like where our field is right now. Oh, look, there's us. So what I'm going to do, because I failed to put two screens up on my kitchen table, which is where I am right now, I'm going to go into presenter mode and I'm going to make sure that you guys can see this. Now, can you guys see this okay?
I'm just still like, look how close we all were.
I know. I put this together last night, and you guys, just to provide you with some context, this is the four of us. This was actually just in January. at one of Rachel's favorite hang spots in Malibu. Rachel, what's the name of this place again?
That is in Santa Monica. That is, oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank? Everyone's going to kill me right now. See, I told you guys I was nervous.
That's one of like the most, it's like iconic bars and like.
Oh, this is bad. This is not a good
see
sign.
No one can see it right now. It's just a black screen we're hearing.
It doesn't matter.
It's Jay's, right?
Sorry. Yeah, it is Shay Jay. Thank you. And now I was getting distracted because Joe was pointing out that the screen got black. Yes, as well. But sorry.
Can
Yes.
you guys see it now?
It's still black for me.
Yeah, we see an H.
That is really weird. Okay, let's try it this way. How about this?
There it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Yay! That's us at JJ in January.
I'm just not used to actually seeing Joe and Justin like separated. I'll be honest, like in the like emails or texts, like in the last couple of weeks, I think I picture you guys in the same spot like all the time. Like I don't.
For
It has been really hard.
So yeah, so to Justin's point, the reason that the four of us were together in January was we were doing some pre-filming for what we thought was going to be our talk at Calaba with Ryan O'Donnell. And also we were doing some filming for the Autism Partnership Foundation for them to launch their amazing free for the rest of your life RBT training, as well as working on a couple other little things that Ryan and I have cooking. And so little did I know that this would be the last time that we'd be together for a while. And so I thought it was just so great to be able to use this picture. And also just to take this opportunity to tell you guys how much I care about you and that I'm so glad that you're here. And even though we're having to do this virtually, it's still just great just to have this opportunity, just to have an intense and likely challenging conversation about a lot of different topics. And I knew that you guys would all be game to do this. And I appreciate you partnering with me on this. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, wipe away the tears. Okay, so what's up with the name of this presentation? When we first pitched this to Rachel, she was like, this is deeply inappropriate. But I was like, Rachel, think about it. At every behavior analytic conference that you go to, you have the sessions that you're attending in the workshops, and you're talking to graduate students looking at poster sessions. But where does the real good stuff happen? It happens at the bar. And to Justin's point earlier when he was introducing us, it has nothing to do with alcohol. It's context. And what the bar meeting at bars does after these days-long conferences that we attend is it just occasions this different type of interaction. And from my perspective, and I'm interested, Joe and Justin and Rachel, to get your perspective, it allows us, I think, to speak in a freer way than we would in a more professional setting, which is, the context of the actual conference itself, whether we're walking between sessions or presenting ourselves or talking to people. And truly, this is where I have developed the best relationships with colleagues. I think it's where a lot of collaboration is born. It's where a lot of research ideas are born. And so to me, we wanted to do this at Calaba, and we wanted to do this now in a virtual format for you guys, because again, what we're trying to do is elicit this same kind of candor that we would have when we are talking at a bar at a conference. And we don't want this presentation to be buttoned up. We want this to be real. We want this to be provocative, and we want you guys to be able to really come away with this with some interesting kind of food for thought and some different perspectives, and also understanding that the four of us are not always aligned on everything. And we wanted to be able to demonstrate that we can, collegially disagree about things, but that we are still all friends in the end. And we think that that's really important. And sometimes that's a missing piece of how we deal with differences, not only in our field, but frankly in our world right now. Do you guys have anything to add to this slide?
Actually, I would say that the differences is what put us even in the friend category. I mean, I'm pretty honest with people, because I think people think you and I know each other better. And by the way, Justin, you told the story a little off. You guys asked me to be here. I get that then you're coming along because of this event, but let's be clear. No, but in honesty, guys, like we didn't know each other. Joe and I have a different history just because we went back longer in terms of family relationships, but we didn't know each other. And so I want to emphasize what you just said, that the friendship actually came out of our first conversations. Not that they were like, I have a disagreement with you. I know most of you guys definitely have a lot of conversations initiated to either of you in different settings with, I don't agree with you. And it wasn't that, but that's how we came together. So it's even cooler. It's like what you just said, plus the add-on. It's not that we were friends and then started disagreeing about stuff. It's that we met under the conditions of likely not agreeing about things. And in that process, established a friendship relatively quickly. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it's a great point. I think anytime that you find yourself around people that are only agreeing with you, you probably need to find other people to be around you, because you're not going to grow as much if you have a bunch of people that are just agreeing. Justin and I have had some very, very, very conversation. Often better, there's this great project that comes out afterwards, but it doesn't come from just agreeing with everyone around you or everyone agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so what?
I agree with what Joe said.
Thanks, Justin. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? The field of applied behavior analysis has grown faster than any of us ever would have imagined, and I am going to actually give you some recent data from the BACB that Melissa Nossick just shared at a Calcella presentation yesterday, and she said that I could share the data with you guys because it's current as of April 2nd, so it's current as of yesterday. Also, we all have ethical responsibilities to our profession to uphold and advance the values, ethics, and principles of the profession of behavior analysis. So what does that mean? I love to say the devil's in the details. And so what I'm hoping this conversation will allow us to do is really talk about the details of how we do this right. And again, we might not always agree about everything, but part of the reason that I'm friends with Rachel and I'm friends with Joe and I'm friends with Justin is that they are deeply, deeply committed to doing it right. It might not be exactly how I might think I would do it, but it's always with a really strong emphasis on ethics and a really strong moral compass. And that's something that I deeply appreciate about all of these individuals. And I think that will really come through in the things that we talk about today. This is going to be interactive. We have no interest in being echo chambers for each other, and we really want to get feedback from all of you guys that are right now listening to this talk. Part of it is because if you're in the West Coast, it's 3 o'clock, and if you're somewhere else in the country, it's even later than that. You've been in a virtual conference likely for 6 or 7 hours today. That's tiring. No one wants to listen to us drone on slides, so we're going to make you get involved, and we invite all of you right now to take a couple minutes while I'm talking to grab your own drink and participate in the live comment section of this amazing virtual platform that Justin has put together. Literally, no topic is off limits. No topic is off limits. You guys, here is some staggering data from the BACB, again, that I just wanted to use to provide some context for today. If you look at the new BCBAs per year, this is astounding, and I see that part of this got cut off, but I'm going to read to you the red part of the slide on the left-hand side of your screen. 50% of BCBAs were certified in the last 4 years. I'm gonna repeat that again, because when I saw the slide yesterday, I was like, you have to be kidding me. 50% of BCBAs were certified in the last 4 years. That is incredible. That means that we have so many people coming into our field right now that are so excited about using behavior analysis to make people's lives better. But that also means that we have a highly, highly inexperienced field. And there are some real pitfalls and things that we want to avoid as we help to grow, shape, mold these young behavior analysts to be more senior, to acquire more clinical skills. And I know that that's definitely something that Rachel, Justin, Joe, and I all have very strong feelings about. If you look at the BACB certificate growth, it's a 230% increase in total certificates processed in 4 years. And what I didn't include in Melissa's slide deck, and I'll just really briefly tell you guys about, is she showed the growth trajectory in behavior analysis, and she compared it to current growth in occupational therapy just to have some comparative data. And our growth trajectory is looking like it's going to Mount Everest. Versus occupational therapy is maybe more like, the foothills of Los Angeles. And so again, we have experienced tremendous rapid growth in our field. This is very, very exciting for a lot of reasons, but it also really creates some pretty intensive issues that I think we need to deal with, and I hope we talk about today. I know a lot of you guys here are from California, so I just wanted to hone in on a couple California-specific data points. So I get this question all the time. How many certificates are in California? I'm going to tell you. Right now, there are 20,001. And not surprisingly, the vast majority of those are RBTs, 13,813. And I hope that you guys noticed that the BACB just sent out a notification that they're going to have on-demand testing for RBTs because that's been a big concern with everyone as the Pearson testing centers have been closed. So they're going to have online, on-demand testing for RBT. So I would encourage you guys to look at that if you are seeking to obtain your RBT certification, or if you are a business owner or helping to supervise RBTs. Unsurprisingly, the BC ABA number is small, 280, but we're at almost 6,000 BCBA certificates in the state of California. And just so you guys know, the state of California represents 15% of total certificates in the world. So we have the largest concentration of certificates in the world in the state of California. Also, if you look at the California employment demand data, it's interesting that we're number one, and the second the second largest state for employment data is Massachusetts. But let's look at these numbers really quickly. Our employment demand data is 9,275 job postings. And the second one is Massachusetts with 2,534. So we essentially have almost 4 times as much job demand data as the second largest job demand state of Massachusetts. And I thought that that was an incredible number. So the BCBA, the current growth projections for behavior analysts, the BCBA looked at a 5% assumption, 10, 15, 20, and 25% assumption. So if we continue to grow in our field at a rate of 15%, then the BACB is estimating that there will be 130,000 behavior analysts by 2028, and that 20,000 of those behavior analysts will be residing in the state of California. Again, just tremendous, tremendous growth. And likely that 15% projection from the BACB, I think is probably conservative based on the number of people that are testing, and based on the fact that we've had, I think the previous slide I showed was 238% increase in tests in the last 4 years. So we're in the midst of just this crazy expansion. But then everything changed. And we're in a whole new world right now. And that's also part of the reason that I wanted to have Rachel and Joe and Justin join me for this talk, because I almost feel like we can all have a face change line. For us in the Bay Area, we started sheltering in place 2.5 weeks ago, and life has really dramatically changed for every single one of us. I don't care what state you're in. I don't care what country you're in. What's happening right now in all of our lives is not what was happening a month ago or 2 months ago or 5 years ago. And so I'd like to spend some time talking about the effects of coronavirus and COVID-19 in our field, and some things that I think that we really need to flesh out together as we kind of continually try to navigate this new reality that we're in. And we definitely don't want to focus this entire time on COVID-19, because Justin said if I did that he would cut off my camera. And but we can't ignore that our environment has changed dramatically, and so we need to change as a result of that. Some of the topics that I'm hoping that we talk about today are things like telehealth. Now everyone wants to be a telehealth provider, but that requires a whole other set of skills. And I know that Rachel has very strong feelings about this, and I'm hoping that she'll share them with you. I want to talk about the survival of ABA businesses. I want to talk about the need for additional infrastructure in our field to support the vast, numbers of RBTs, BCABAs, and BCBAs that are coming into our market. I want to talk about what it means to be part of the essential workforce. I want to talk about the need for clinical judgment and the need for expertise if we know right now that 50% of certificates have been certified for less than 4 years. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing the screen. And I want to get back to Hollywood Squares. And I want to open this up. Okay, guys. Also, I'm looking at all of the live comments. So this is what I want you guys to do. If there is a topic that you want us to address, can you put it in the live comments right now? And I'm going to note this, and then we're just going to talk about some of the things that we want to talk about. But if you guys have something that you'd like to hear our perspective on, this is what this is all about. We want this to be interactive. Ooh, Cheryl, this is a really good question. Okay. Are you guys down to just start with questions, and then we can kind of weave in some of the topics that we want to talk about?
Totally.
Your show.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm happy I can't see the questions because I'd be overwhelmed. I do want to say one thing real quick. Sarah, thank you. That was a really great introduction. And yes, I do make fun of you on a regular basis as to whether or not you use slides like that. So I was impressive. Now, you didn't quite want to go to the access fees correctly, but that's okay. I just said access fees, so clearly I'm not okay myself. But only one correction. I have one correction. 130,000 BCBAs, not necessarily 130,000 behavior analysts. And I know I'm being a little...
Oh, yes.
Is that right? Okay, yeah. Side note. Go to the questions. Do it.
Okay, so Cheryl's first question is this. How do you all manage your commitments with effective, ethical, and thorough practice?
Sorry, I got distracted because my teenager is using something that is loud, or someone is. So sorry about that. Go. Somebody else answer it. I apologize.
Adele and Missy have a way to deal with that. It's a red card, green card. Just so you know.
Okay, so yeah, how do you manage all of your commitments with effective, ethical, and thorough practice? Well, I feel like I need to have, it's okay, Rachel. This is life. This is the life we're all living. I have, thank you. That if they make an appearance, then they're going to have to join the presentation. They're going to have to contribute something. And that was enough for them to just like all shut their doors. They're like, we don't want to talk. Okay. So Cheryl, if you can give me a little more information. So are you saying that, gosh, we're all busy and we're doing a lot of things. And so how do we make sure that we spend time to focus on ethics in effective practice? Is that what you're saying? And I'll give her a second to respond. But one thing that I think that all of us have done, and again, I'd love for you guys to speak about this is where infrastructure and systems matter. So Rachel, I know that you guys have spent a lot of time on this. And I know.
Yeah, no, it is, this is so hard because guys, by the way, I really am trying to go with we are having a casual conversation vibe. And the minute I do this, I get my like panel voice on and so we are committed to doing it that way, right? Should I try to? Right, yeah. So I'm going to try. Because if not, then I'm going to go in my like usual mode and be like, and then Justin and blah, blah, blah. And okay, let me try. Pause. I don't know where the question's coming from, but it made me think of something, if I can just be casual, which was when I first started getting invited speaker events for this year. And we put together like a flyer and we were like, oh, look, these are all the upcoming events. I was really excited. One of the moms of one of the individuals that lives in one of our community living homes, most of the moms in all of our clients have no problem voicing their opinion. You make fun of me. Let's talk about the power of an autism mom's voice, right? And this question might not be about that, but it made me think of it, which was how are you going and giving talks or helping on a board or doing research, and yet still ensuring that your practices are doing okay. So that might not be where this is coming from, but exactly to answer your question or your comment there, Sarah, to address that is that is the infrastructure. And I think people have a lack of understanding of people who have decided to build organizations with very high level board certified behavior analysts, doctoral level BCBAs, behavior analysts, let's put it that way, and invest quite a bit of money in positions that are there to support the other clinical team members, right? So for me and university affiliations, IRB, so like my employees, just like I know with Autism Partnership as well, that we have people who are part of ethics boards, who are on institutional review boards, who are on human rights committees. Like these are actual employees that have different positions as well. So there's a lot of ways to answer this, but I just kind of wanted to comment on it might be coming from that. And part of why I do what I do, and I explained that to this mom 6 months ago, I said, please understand that I actually have no interest in doing any of these right now. And this is pre-COVID. It was a moment of, I have concerns about how much funding and support is going to be available for the type of work we're doing. And I'm realizing that the people, I don't know who's on which screen there, sorry, that have gotten, that get significant support for their families are people who publish and who present. And that's why we come out and spend our time doing this. So in terms of managing my commitments within the field, that's how I balance it. I will go do this thing knowing that I have a team and an infrastructure within my organization that is adhering to very specified practices when it comes to effective and ethical and thorough practice. So that's it. I went into my panel voice. Sorry.
I love it. No, this is great. And I think part of the context of what Cheryl was saying is she was saying that she's a new BCBA. And I think part of her question was born out of, and this all the time, and I definitely hear it a lot, especially from the CalABA side, is we hear from BCBAs that work for other BCBAs that are business owners and have questions about ethical practices. I think especially for people that are drawing down healthcare dollars, there's I think the pressure for the billable time, everything's billable time can somehow feel that I think people feel like that outweighs really having quality clinical practice. And so I wanted to give you guys, this is not an APA format because I'm holding it right now, but this is one of my favorite articles. And I know that you can't read this, so I'm gonna read it for you because especially for young BCBAs that are in the field, or if you have concerns about where you're working, I wanna tell you 2 things. 1, you control where you work. If you're working for a jerk, don't work for them. There are a lot of different jobs that you can have as a behavior analyst. And if you're working for a place that is not aligned with your ethics and that isn't aligned with the BACB ethical and professional compliance code, don't work there. But I think even more important is to do your homework prior to accepting a job. And this is a great article that was published in Behavior Analysis and Practice in 2018. And I quote this all the time. It's the lead author was Matt Broadhead and Sean Quigley and David Cox, who are 3 of my friends and 3 of my favorite people. And the title of this article is this: How to Identify Ethical Practices in Organizations Prior to Employment. Prior to employment. What you don't want to do is take a job and then realize a couple weeks down the line or a couple months down the line that this is a terrible place to work and you hate everyone. No one wants to do that. It's a lot of response effort to transition to a new job. There's a tremendous amount of training. It's a lot of training and cost for your employer too. And this article has some really, really easy to follow steps for you and to ask to make sure that you're making the right decision on the front, and let's antecedent manage this versus feeling like you're stuck in a crappy workplace with people that are not ethical providers.
I can cut you off easier in the bar, by the way.
I see you, bro.
I didn't know what article you were going to bust out, and now my babbling's aside because I just needed to calm down and get comfortable. So now I'm ready. We, per Dr. Broadhead at CABA, we have an ethics coordinator. So that if anyone's familiar with the work that Sarah's referencing, that was an article that recommended that within your organization you should have a person who is designated for that. Now, the work that Joe and Justin, different. Now I'm panel voice again, but research, no matter what, you've got ethical protections in place. So Broadhead was speaking specifically to any ABA agency, no matter how small you are, no matter how high your billable requirement is, who is the person that you can appoint as your ethics point person. We called it an ethics coordinator at CABA. So that's just one little tip. And you should read Dr. Broadhead's work to see where that tip came from, because it was him. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, boys, come on, talk up.
I don't know, Justin and Joe, obviously, Rachel and I have so many things to say, but do you want to get a word in?
The only thing that I was going to add to that, I mean, because that Broadhead article is amazing, but I think too often we view interviews as a company interviewing us. And I think it's a two-way street. You're also interviewing the company. And I think if more people had that perspective, they could use the suggestions in that Broadhead article to actually interview and ask the questions that they need to ask before they accept the job there. And I think if more people had that perspective going into job interviews, I think we would be able to solve a lot of those problems before they actually accepted the job.
I answered a little differently.
What a shock.
Yeah.
I just want to say I disagree with anything Justin's about to say.
And it's not that I disagree with you, any of you guys, or disagree that Broadhead is the article is amazing. But I think it starts really beforehand for young behavior analysts, probably as they're going through their schooling and their education, to really identify their ethical and moral self. So that they know what they stand for and what they don't. I mean, I know that Joe and myself could be, very vocal and I guess anti-establishment of what's going on or critical. But I think we have a line that we've established for ourselves, like this is what's important to us. And this is the values, my values, bringing back to Jonathan's talk earlier today, of what I stand for. And I think what I see from young BCBAs or young BCABAs, I don't see many RBTs at this point, but what I see is they don't really have the full complete picture. And so they don't know fully what they stand for. So they could go through Broadhead's flow chart of what to do, which would be good. But if they don't have a good compass, let's say, of what they're good at ethically, what they stand for, I think it's hard to navigate. And so an example I give a lot of times is in grad school, I get some master's students when it's talking about like a parent is having a problem. And so they're working with a young child with autism. A parent is having a problem, whatever it may be. And I talk to them in the class, looks much like this. And I say, okay, so should we work with the parent? They're like, no, we shouldn't work with the parent. It's like my job, my only ethical point is to work with the kid. It's like, well, but the parent's part of that family. It's a family unit. You need to be able to do that. So I try to shape that. I think that my point of that is your ethical decisions really will help that, your ethical self, and realizing the big picture. So I think there's some pre-work that has to go in even before you're interviewing a company or a company's interviewing you.
Well, and part of
agree with that?
Well, I'm sorry.
No, Joe, you said you disagree with me.
I guess it was okay.
I was way too excited to know if I agreed or not. I was like, what just happened? Sorry, no, Claire, you were going to say that. I was like, what? I got all excited. Sorry, go.
and part of what this article talks about, and I think that this kind of brings to mind a couple other points that I think we should discuss. So if we know that 50% of behavior analysts in our field have been certified for 4 years or less, and that we know that the BCBA credential is a minimum competency. So I want you guys to hear this loud and clear. It's the floor, not the ceiling. It's a minimum competency.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
Would you like me to repeat that again?
Yeah, one more time for the people in the back.
The people in the back. Your behavior analyst credential is a minimum competency. The Behavior Analyst Certification Board states this clearly on their website. So it's just a starting point. That's why there's continuing education requirements, because we always need to be learning more, doing more, growing. And this article by Matt Broadhead et al. Talks really clearly about the need to be sure that you're working for organizations that are going to give you appropriate, and I'm going to say the S word, supervision. And if you are an early career behavior analyst, and I'm going to define early career behavior analyst as anyone that's been practicing for less than 5 years, which now is almost everyone. If you are an early career behavior analyst, and I thought about this earlier, there are 3 things that I think that you should be focusing on for the first 5 years of your career. And the first one is supervision. You need to be working for an organization that is going to continue to take your minimal competency that you have met, which is your certification, and help you to continue to develop your scope of competence, which is another fantastic article by Matt Broadhead et al. The argument for focus on scope of competency. And if we would have had Calaba, he was going to do an entire lunch presentation called Carbs and Competency to specifically focus on like, what is your scope of competence and why should you give a crap? But I'm telling you, you need to. So if you are an early career behavior analyst, you should be focusing on getting quality supervision, on expanding your scope of competency. And frankly, from my perspective, you should be focused on working for someone. Rachel's a business owner. I'm a business owner. I was very entrepreneurial. I started my business a long time ago, but I worked for someone first for 5 years prior to doing that. And again, there's no law that says you can't start a business, and I'm not encouraging people not to want to do things their own way, but I am saying if you're an early career behavior analyst, I'm defining that as less than 5 years of being certified for less than 5 years, your entire focus in your life right now needs to be on quality supervision, mentorship, developing your scope of competence, looking at whatever subspecialty you might be interested in, gleaning as much information and having those relationships and spending time working in an organization that's going to support that. I think that this is critical for us to continue to develop quality clinicians in our field.
I know my face is.
Now I'm gonna take a drink.
I'm trying not to like have all these like moments. You know what? I'm not going to say. I'm going to pause because if Justin or Joe are ready to say something, please do. Because I obviously have a lot to say. No.
You wouldn't do that at the bar, so why are you doing that
at the bar, Rachel? So do you?
I actually, you know what's funny? I'm glad you just said that. You're right. Under different stimulus conditions and a non-pandemic, whatever the hell we're all dealing with right now, you're right. Guess what? I think I might have changed a little, just a little. I'm sure a lot of people have changed a little. And now you just gave me the perfect intro, Joe, to exactly what I know you. I'll try not to make it. Okay. Someone's going to have to stop me if I get in lecture mode. Okay. Right there, that moment. That's so true, right? And yet you guys, I could speak in half little words and each one of you knew exactly what I was just saying on like an epic level. It was a, wow, yeah, that which I know about Rachel. And then, by the way, if I keep referring to myself in the third person, we have a serious problem and someone needs to like stats and like essential workers to my house. Okay. So please do not let me start doing that. But we all have a moment there because you knew that right away I was saying my environment's dramatically changed, right? And so therefore I am like taking a step back. I'm listening more. It has changed the way I'm thinking about things. And I'm not trying to drag into that moment. I'm just saying it's just like such a priceless little moment of that we could in less than half a sentence, the four of us recognize that I was acknowledging how much the environment influences my behavior. And the look that you saw on my face the whole time, and when you're saying it, Sarah, the look was coming up because I agree with everything you're saying. You know that wholeheartedly. Well, I think what I've realized this week in particular, listening to a lot of the expert level presentations, is I've gone to the next level and I'm hesitating because I really wish I'd had more time to think about how am I going to talk to Justin and Joe about this in terms of their focus on how best to address concerns about unqualified people practicing. Versus what I'm finding myself is I'm almost like, and I just haven't articulated it yet, but I feel like in these last few days, I'm starting to accept what you're saying, Sarah. And I'm being like, all right, we got to do something. Mayday, mayday. We got to save this. There's a bunch of people out there that are certified, that are allowed to do this. And I think we were almost even closer before, Joe and Justin. I keep reaching the wrong way. And not that we're any more divergent. The cool thing is that we have the same foundation, but I'm starting to find myself more like, I think I'm going to start talking to the audience of I'm giving in, you're doing this. And I even recorded something like the last couple of days where I came out loud and I said, I think there's a bunch of people that are BCBAs that aren't behavior analysts. And I've said that before. I actually added on, and that's okay. And in the back of my head, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I hope Justice doesn't see this before this panel today. Right? The reason why I said it was because of what you keep saying is that it's an entry-level credential. And that I'm recognizing that I am even more worried than ever about the comment that you make about supervision, which I agree with you, that I think I'm finally accepting as well. As much as we keep harping that it needs to be excellent supervision practices, are we a little too late in the game that now the majority of those BCBAs are now being supervised by other BCBAs that are more senior, and they still don't know the basic foundation of what I was babbling about a few seconds ago, which was this geeky little moment we had about my history and the environment changing and how that's influenced my behavior. And we could go down this whole big path. And I'll wrap it up right here. I thought of all of this because listening to some of my dear colleagues that I love and respect, and things like values-based decision-making or all these complex topics, I was listening to all these webinars and I was like, oh no, I don't think they know basic behavior environment relations. And now we're flooding them with a bunch of information that requires a relatively advanced level of expertise to understand. So I'm starting to panic mode a little bit. So sorry, I didn't think I would do it, but I thought, did I wrap it up decently there? Or did I get too babbly? Be honest, the babble.
So I don't know. I've never heard you. I've been around you in a bar quite frequently. Yeah. I've never heard you say at a bar to me, did I wrap this up okay? So you said you're taking data where you put like a plus right there. My take on this in general is I disagree, Sarah, with the 5-year time period, because I don't think it's time-based at all. I think it's all performance-based. I think everything comes to performance-based. And I say this because my mentor, Jim Sherman, who I'm sure if I was to ask many people, all 450 plus people here, they would not know who Jim Sherman is. Jim Sherman was one of our founding parents of our field. He got his BCBA in 2008 or 2009 when I was a doctoral student. He just got it because he needed to get it so that his doctoral students could sign off on hours. Because Greg Hanley and Rachel Thompson left KU and there's no one to sign on our hours anymore. So I don't think he needs 5 years because his performance is stellar. He knew how to supervise because he's been doing it for 40 years. And so for me, I see a competent behavior analyst, whether that's a certified behavior analyst or a non-certified behavior analyst, is when they can do the tasks with high degree of fidelity, when they can actually do them to a high degree of fidelity in different settings, not just working with a specific kind of child with autism or child with other disorder or typically developing child, but when they can do it across different people. The other thing which is concerning to me is which Steve Wolf brought up, is I think people have forgotten our roots of a lot of what we do. And so I like the fact that 5% knew what the outcome of the Lovaas study was. and they work with children with autism is frightening. The fact that they don't know the work of Ione and Azrin is frightening. And so I think we need to do a better job of teaching them those articles. But mostly, I think what we do really poorly, and I'm glad people like Nozick and Bridget Taylor are bringing it, and Linda LeBlanc are bringing it up, and people in the past have brought it up, like Sandra Harris and Mary Jane Weiss, is I think we have to really have therapists, analysts become really good at being clinically sensitive and being caring and compassionate with families. I think that's something that's missing, and I want to drill that in early on. And so I see a lot of times people talk about parents not adhering to protocols. And I want to ask all those people who do that, how are you adhering right now to protocols with COVID-19 happening? How well are you making sure that you are being great with your kids when you're stressed out to the max, when you're insecure about the future next day? My guess is treatment fidelity has gone down. I know for me it has with my 2 kids. And so I think that's one of the foundational skills that we have to hit upon is clinical sensitivity, a caring and compassion early on.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, to your point, I mean, I love Bridget Taylor, Linda LeBlanc's, and Melissa Nozick's article on compassionate care. And I think they do a really good job of kind of starting that conversation in terms of how do we operationalize that? Because of course, for us, we always want to look at how do we do this in a systematic way? How can we define this so it doesn't seem, mentalistic? But they shared in that article, some interesting data from other disciplines, just showing treatment efficacy as a result of clinicians that can apply and can display behaviors that are consistent with compassionate care. And so that's an article for you guys. Definitely to look at if you haven't read it before. It's great. Linda and Bridget have done multiple workshops on this. I actually think they're developing right now even a course, I think at FIT on compassionate care. So I would really encourage you guys to examine this. And I want to talk about the time limit. I agree. I mean, sure, we're a competency-based profession. And in my practice, before I sold my business, sure, time, can be meaningful or meaningless depending on the person. And I agree, but I also think that there are some experiences that happen in life for which time is an essential piece to just be able to have these experiences and have a wide range of clients. I definitely think that you can be a great BCBA in a shorter amount of time than 5 years. I think my point was just to be able to offer some type of framework of understanding, but not everyone's going to fit into that framework. And just because this is real life, right? You can't say all people do this one thing. Just to kind of think about in your mind that I think, whether that's 5 years or 4 years or 3 years, what I want the salient point to be is that there needs to be some duration of time that's devoted to working, and really focusing on obtaining appropriate supervision. And there is a lot of articles. Tyra Seller's written a bunch of articles. Amber Valentino's written a lot of articles about what does that look like? How do you both provide it and obtain it? And also the mentorship, and also spending time in organizations that are engaged in the type of work that you really yourself want to specialize in, and whether that means that you become more of a senior person within that organization, whether you work for someone else or whether you start your own business. What you see a lot in behavior analysis, and this is happening less and less, is kind of these companies that are almost like incubators or graduate programs that are incubators for which a lot of people start and then kind of disperse. And I love that. And I love that lineage and that history. But we see that happening less often as we've had, our numbers just grow astronomically. And so I just wanted to mention that about the time thing, that I totally agree with competency-based assessment. That's aligned with our science. That was aligned with my practice. But I also think that there is an argument that you need to spend some time on these things. And whether it's 5 years or 4 years or 3 years, as I get older and saltier, I will say that there's just nothing that can fast track this wisdom, and time is one of those things that's important.
Sarah, I agree with that completely. I'm saying that the time base is not the minute you get your BCBA, the time that the time starts. I'm saying if people had 30 or 40 years of experience and then decide to get their BCBA, they can start right away if they're doing it well with performance. It's not the BCBA, the mark that you get your certification marks that the time starts. It's really the time that you've worked in. Yeah.
So then let me ask a question, because we talked about this when we were in LA together in January. Are we missing the mark in some of our graduate training for some of, in terms of teaching? some of the things that you're talking about? And are we right now overemphasizing graduate programs teaching to the test? And perhaps, putting undue pressure on our, colleagues and friends that are academicians to, focus on certain things to the detriment of other things that would perhaps, help us have more well-rounded clinicians.
Yes. I mean, it was in the chat box. The Lovaas study doesn't fall into the BACB task list, which is why they don't know about it. I think your question also provides the answer. I think typically I'm the conceptual guy, and Justin pointed out that as education, especially younger ones, aren't as conceptually sound as some other people in the field. I think that's well known. I don't think we're arguing about that. I think all four of us would agree with that. So I think we found ourselves in this position to where the contingencies operating on the people that are providing supervision and training and education, especially in an academic setting, are having to teach to the test. If it's not on the task list, they're probably less likely to spend time on it because those numbers get published. The numbers on how many people pass the BCBA exam at each university, that gets published, and students are using that to decide where they're going to go to school. So to me, the contingencies are all kinds of out of whack for us to develop actually thoroughgoing behavior analysts that are going to be most effective with kids.
I take notes in the bar at the same time. I don't even know why I'm doing it. I think that if I just engage in the textual response, it increases the likelihood that I'll be able to still that wasn't good. Still say what I wanted to say after a delay. I can't, yeah, guys, this is, I couldn't agree with you guys more. Looking back and the discussion that we started, you're right. If people watching, go back, there was a video released of some footage of us starting this conversation, and we had brought up this potential issue of a divide between academics and practitioners. And my full body reactions, and I'm trying to not look like a totally exhausted person like we all are right now, is just, it's so hard to sit here and reflect on, wow, so much has changed and kind of what I'm focusing on with respect to that. But I still completely agree everything we said. Nothing has changed in terms of my foundation with that. I think a few key things that have changed. Number one, I hear what you're saying, Sarah. I'm with you. I have to be with you, because if it weren't for time and us having to value something with respect to time, then I couldn't have had 3 consecutive marriages and finally mastered it. So let's be clear on that. Okay. So time does do something. All right. All right. What else? When it comes to talking about where they're at right now, I was so focused on digging into this. Okay, what are they learning in grad school? What's happening in the practicum? Are we bringing them back to the basics? Guys, Peter Gerhardt recently told me a story that he interviewed 3 BCBAs, and he asked them, please name the 3 most influential behavior analysts in your career. So to get to your point, Justin, because I know that's why we always get along, is my ridiculous foundation in respecting our lineage and our history and the field, which is funny because history psychology was the most annoying class to me in grad school, side note, but maybe because I actually know them. See, we're old enough, so it makes it more real, right? Anyway, he interviewed 3. 2 out of 3 could not answer the question at all. Okay. So only 1 out of 3 current board certified behavior analysts could name 3 influential behavior analysts in their careers. But you want to hear the best part? One of the BCBAs said Freud.
Yeah. But Skinner also said that Freud was a big influence on him. So...
Okay, nice. I don't think Gerhardt would have been telling me the story in the same way. I'm pretty sure he probably did some probing follow-up questions, because I'm sure actually he probably exactly did that to see if they would be like, oh, you're right. I'm thinking that's not what happened. Yeah, I'm thinking that's not what happened. So I think I'm shifting a bit, obviously, because of the current situation. And I know, Justin, you're right. We do not, and believe me, I'm thrilled that I am not sitting here. By the way, I don't look at the live chats. You guys know I can't multitask to that level right now.
Yeah, I'm attending to it.
So I want everyone to understand that, because it would be too much to throw me off to try to figure out how to kind of try to remain focused as I look. And I'm like, oh, what was written? History, supervision, current BCBAs. I was like, I don't know what I'm even writing.
Being at a bar and there's other people talking and you're trying to get into their conversation.
Yeah, no, yeah. Anyway, I guess my punchline is that these are concerns, and I don't want to be like the crazy COVID girl who, by the way, side note, Sarah Troutman and I had our first ridiculously emotionally charged, terrifying emergency Zoom COVID-related meeting over a month ago. So I think we're all going to need to recognize that everyone's on very different timelines. I'm not saying that makes us no more or anything else. I just hope that that's a powerful thing for everyone to recognize, that what we're going through right now just puts us on very different tracks, right? And then obviously, I think most people, I don't know, well, maybe most people watching this don't know. I should clarify. I operate several community living homes, all right? So I also operate traditional ABA services. So I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole right now, but everything that's come up in terms of what's happening these weeks has made me have to kind of adjust and shift. And finally, to go back to everything you guys are saying, I think that, yes, we are going to definitely need to look at a potential divide between the academics and the practitioners. I think right now we need to take a step back, as I always say, and be very concerned about people that are actively practicing as BCBAs throughout the world right now. And that's the only thing I think will dramatically change in the focus of my conversations with you, Justin and Joe, as we move forward here, is I feel like I can't, and I hope other smart people are doing it, so you guys keep doing it, right? Like, I can't step back now and think about, are we preparing them? Because now I'm in like next level Mayday about everybody who's out there doing it. So, and I know we use that as part of the argument. You're always great about that, Justin. I mean, you go back to the UK study, right? I mean, and before COVID, I was going back to TRICARE. Like, I mean, it's not like I'm saying this out of nowhere, and I don't mean to sound dramatic. I hope it's not. I'm sorry. Bad bar night. Don't hang out with me on a Friday in a pandemic. It's just not a good call. Not a good call. All right. But so I just want to kind of reshift it that way a little bit of, okay, so what do we do now? Now, do we reach back out to those professors that have a little bit more time maybe? Because following that video, and now I will wrap it up, I can do it. Following that video, when it came out, I was shocked, guys. The video, that we previewed for this, to remind everyone, we brought up the academic practice divide. I had made this comment and some stuff came out of that afterwards. I was shocked. I had several professors. I called Justin and talked to him about this. I never called Justin. I had several professors call me and admit that they had felt pressured to pass people in classes. And guys, I've been in academia for well over a decade. I was the department chair for one of the largest graduate training programs in the world. And I would have never thought that was actually the reality. So that's how naive I am. So for somebody who's out there giving opinions on this, I was like, is that really happening? So thank you guys, because us putting that out there made people call me and tell me that. So, that was tough to hear. So that is another change before everyone started, dealing with it.
I think we could all do better. I mean, I think that's the thing. Everyone could do better in terms of it. I think it's not just a graduate program issue, and I am looking at some of the chat box things. I think
is everyone making fun of me? Should I shut up? Like, I'm so sorry.
No one's making fun of you at all.
Not on the chat box anymore.
Not on the chat box. Just that Joe and I text back and forth to each other.
I already see that. It's obvious because you do this. See, because I am a good behavior analyst. So I can observe and see. Go ahead.
I'm taking data on your hands. That's what I'm taking data on. Am I drinking to your hand? No, I think we can all do better. I think it's graduate programs operate under contingencies of universities, and we have to realize that. And they can improve. And I saw some of the comments I was referring to, Rachel, where the comments were about computer's gonna die. Were the comments about that some programs are making autism-specific courses and some programs are having online practicums. That's great. Yeah. Other comments that happen are making sure that afterwards, realizing I always talk to my students like this is the beginning of your career. Yeah. And what's happening in the next phases of your career. And the next phases is, as what people have said, is get good mentors. I know when I was done with my PhD program, I went to like Mary Jane Weiss and Shala Ali, and Bob Ross and his friend Dr. Small. And I went to all of these different people and really worked at making sure that I'm continuing to learn and continuing that learning process. Like, you should never be done learning.
I know. Justin, I hear you. I'm going to cut you off only to say, okay, so how do we deal with this? Let's do this then realistically. Why do you do that? Because you have a history of watching the people who heavily influenced your field, right? So largely just completely reinforce your behavior, blah, 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 awesome conditioned, awesome stimuli, right? These people, okay. And you saw that from them. Me, same thing, right? So even if, let's go, Pat Gezi, constantly, Bijou was sitting next to him in my lab, okay? Like, Bijou interviewed me for UNR, and he had nothing to do with UNR. He interviewed me because he was constantly with Gezi, and so I was like, oh, I'm supposed to interview. And in my interview, he said, why are you going into behavior analysis and not this sexy cognitive psychology thing? And I was like, what is going on, right? Like, so we saw that, right? Then I went later in my career at Michelle Wallace. I watched her call Brian Iwata on a regular basis and ask these questions. So I hear you. I am worried about us barking that at them when that's what I meant before when Sarah was saying the importance of supervision, that I've always been totally there with Sarah and like, yeah, we can do it. We can get them to be better supervisors. And then I was suddenly like, uh-oh, do we have people that have been certified for 6 years that never saw anything that we've seen? I keep pointing the wrong way. Okay. That now we're supervising the people who have been certified 2 years. And we're just telling them that they're supposed to like the old people. Like, I hear you, but I don't know what to do because those people that are out there right now didn't get that modeling. So I'm not trying, I mean, I want help. Like, let's do this. How do we get them?
But this is where, I mean, from my perspective, this is an infrastructure question. And so, okay, so the vast majority of people that want to practice behavior analysis generally become board certified behavior analysts. Not everyone, but the vast majority. Right. And again, we're assuming that this is, we're not assuming, but it's a minimum credential. We know that there are contingencies and pressures on graduate programs to make sure that they are having their students have the highest pass rate possible, because that unfortunately has been like the number one kind of data point that people are looking at when they're selecting a graduate program, not necessarily focusing on I want to work with this person or this person. They're like, oh, who is like a high pass rate and who's like going to give me money, right? This is often the questions that are asked. But this, from my perspective, is where we need to have better infrastructure both at a national level and a state level, because part of the questions that I'm seeing in the chat right now are, how do I find how do you identify organizations that are good to work with, and I think it's important for all of us to also give ourselves some grace in this. Our field has grown so rapidly, so fast. And our field was really used to be, I mean, just like, hardcore pure scientists. And then, once, especially master's level people were able to kind of come into the field and be certified, and I've talked to Pat Fryman about this over and over again, like what conferences looked like 30 years ago are not what they look like now. And so it takes some time to make these adjustments. But I can't help but think that this is where we need to look at what are the additional supports that we need to provide for our field, understanding some of the barriers and challenges that academics might face. Is it that we have places that do we look at organizational accreditation? And I think a lot of people are looking at the need for organizational accreditation. How do we create standard setting across our field, and probably standards especially very specific to serving individuals with autism? Because yes, we understand the behavior analyst credential is not an autism credential, but let's just call a spade a spade. Almost all of us are working with kids with autism. So like, let's just be honest about that versus, trying to act like that's not what's happening right now. And I think that, conferences like this, I hope, that the work that we're trying to do at Calaba are to help to create not just these kind of, experiences in a vacuum where you listen to someone for 50 minutes or you go to a conference for 2 days and you get all this information and then like go back to your regular scheduled programming and just do everything you were going to do. We need to work to have systems and infrastructure to support the skills that we know that clinicians and behavior analysts need in order to provide the best services and to get the most optimal outcomes possible, regardless of the setting. And I know, obviously, Justin and Joe, you guys feel strongly about this, and that's why, and I think this is an appropriate time to kind of talk about what you guys have done to develop this. But this is what we need in our field. We can't just say, oh, well, this is the graduate program's job, or oh, it's an organizational job. We need infrastructure at a state and national level to help support, whether it is many, certificates, subspecialties. We need to be looking at how do we develop all of this breadth of skills that we see is so important, and it's going to take a collaborative effort from my perspective.
This might be a little bit scattered, but I'll try my best.
It's 4 o'clock, baby. It's all good.
So I agree. But it doesn't necessarily have to be just a top-down approach. It can also be a bottom-up approach. And I think we've been very doom and gloom and problem-oriented right now. And I think somewhere in the chat box, they're like, all right, so we know the problem. What's the intervention? And I think I want to give some reinforcement to all like 400 plus people that are here, because you're part of that intervention. You're part of the solution. Yes. You coming to things like this and listening to the problem is going to help provide some solutions as well, because you're going to take this and you're going to make sure that people know that the BCBA is an entry-level credential, and you're going to help them know what they don't know. And I think that's a really important skill, because once you know what you don't know, you know who to seek out to be able to fill those holes in your repertoire. And I think we live in a world of brilliant technology right now. When I was trying to decide what to do after I graduated with my master's degree, I started Google searching names in the field, trying to see what they were doing. And I looked for people that would be able to fill the holes in my repertoire. And I went and sought those people out. I think if we get more people seeking out experts in that way and using technology in a way to find those experts, find the people that are doing the things that you think are important work, find the people that are doing things that are helping the field progress, go get their mentorship, because you probably can. And then once you have that mentorship, and then we're back at the top down, and then you can provide that mentorship for others, as opposed to some newly minted BCBA. And I'm sure there's some greatly minted BCBAs, but rather than some new vision for another newly minted BCBA and perpetuating the problem that Rachel was saying, I think we can take it from both sides. And I think we're here simultaneously as part of the problem and the solution.
Yeah, and I want to say this, and Natalie just said this in the chat, and then you took the words out of my mouth. I think that we can focus the last part of this all on solutions-based or solutions that we have, because we know everything. We have all the solutions. We forgot to tell you that's part of this talk, is we have solutions for everything. If you guys like really remember nothing else from this talk, I want you guys to feel empowered as a professional, that you are your own unique and distinct professional as a behavior analyst, whether you're certified or not certified, and you have the responsibility, and you need to take ownership of developing yourself. Don't wait for someone else to do it for you. Don't think it's, I just work for someone, and so I'll just do what they say. I hope that you have enough love and curiosity and a desire to continue to better yourself, and to Justin's point, to do better, to obtain, additional mentorship opportunities through networking, through attending events like this, through participating in your state association. I just can't underscore enough that you're not just someone's employee. You're not just a BCBA. You are your own professional, and you have a responsibility to everyone that you work with to continue to always want to grow and develop your own skills so you can do the best work possible. And that to me is so important. And that's where I think it's, to kind of the whole top down. I think a lot of times people think in behavior analysis, oh, if I'm not a PhD, I'm not as important. Well, I'm not a PhD, and I think I'm still important. But that
someone turn her mic off.
Wait, you're not a doctor? Oh my God.
I know, right? I have a player.
Which one doesn't belong in this conference?
I have a player hating degree. That's what I have. No, but I just implore you guys to understand that you can do this. And if you didn't get it in grad school, then you can develop it, in terms of where you work in an organization, you can reach out to people. And I think you'd be surprised that if you just reach out and ask for help or ask for support, even by people that you think, gosh, they're never going to respond to me, they're going to respond to you. Because people that love behavior analysis are people that are going to be dedicated, and they want to encourage the growth of young people that are going to continue to further this field. Seriously. Because you're looking
at that's such a perfect point, because it was going on in the chat box a lot. I was watching. Reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. I mean, a lot of people are here because they want to help, and they want to help the next generation and the next generation. So it might be scary to, go, if you saw Bill Heward at a conference, and reach out and talk to him, but go and—
He's the nicest guy. He's so nice.
I mean, Fred Volkmer, for example, Fred Volkmer was at this conference. I didn't know Fred Volkmer at all, but I reached out to talk to him and built some kind of relationship with him. And it was scary because he's Fred Volkmer. He's the editor of JAD for years. And it's just like, that's something at a personal level you can do. Is just reach out, because people, for the most part, are really receptive and really want to help.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying not to look at the chat. You told me to at one point. I glanced. I'm getting people texting me. I'm trying to balance this, because I want to be as helpful as possible. So I will try to build on this. Number one, talking about agency infrastructure or graduate training or anything, and I'm not trying to go crisisy, but every time one of those topics comes up, we need to recognize that the likelihood that most agencies are going to have the same infrastructure as they did before, let alone a better one moving forward, is pretty damn low. Except for some people that come from long established histories and are able to, and that's great. But at the same time, we know those guys are not going to hire 500 BCBAs either. So I'm not trying to be doomsday, but I just want to recognize that maybe we need to just consider where we're allocating our time. And if we're allocating our time to defending, if it's the universities or the practica programs, then maybe we all need to realize that none of those things might be the same. And so they might be, and wouldn't that be great? But in the meantime, instead of spinning on that, let's think about the solutions. So I just had a moment. You saw it, Sarah saw it. I was like, yes, maybe this is it. So even if no one else liked this, because every single moment of every single day that I've gone through for the last month, no doubt, has been okay, how am I going to learn from this? Is this changing what my current stance is? What do I think? Again, I'm constantly like going through my little freaking skeptical. All right. Okay. Dr. Leaf, Joe, I am still with you on the bandwagon of we have to figure out how to ensure the best possible training for the direct staff members. The response to your training is phenomenal. You guys know that I had been, prior to this current situation, focusing my time on pivoting to providing a comprehensive online, which I started not calling RBT anymore. Even before any of this, I started saying direct support worker, because I was already seeing we didn't know what was going to, but whatever, a comprehensive online training for people that work across ages and across diagnoses at the direct staff level. And that would meet the requirements for any of the available credentials, right? So we were kind of all still in the same thing. So everyone knows Justin was kind enough to tell me ahead of time that he was releasing the free training. I was like, that's great. Mine's not going to be free. Is yours about kids with autism? Awesome. So we were fine and moved forward. But my point in bringing this up is keep doing it. Flag the fight. You guys go on that end. I think I'm realizing that perhaps with telehealth, maybe, I know I'm doing it at CABA, and this is no secret because I want to help everybody right now. And it just occurred to me, maybe this will be a helpful tip for y'all. We have never followed the traditional 3-tiered insurance model at my organization. There are many reasons why we did not do that. Over the years, I started to agree to allow people who were specifically BCBA candidates near the end of their program that have participated in our research lab, potentially to open up that middle-tiered billing option. So yes, I am the most moronic business owner on the face of the planet in the state of California, okay? However, I did have a 3-tiered model, and in that 3-tiered model, and I do, the middle tier is the BCBA. And what I appreciate and value and why we've gotten along is that the focus has been, what do we do for the bottom tier and what do we do for the BCBAs, not in those tiers, but meaning everyone in this chat, of just recognizing this. Perhaps a solution that everyone should stop and think about that I'm doing at CABA right now, especially with the opportunity for telehealth, especially if you're on here hearing this saying, I don't care if I call them or email them, they're not going to call me back. Because by the way, if you call me or email me right now, I'm so not calling you back. All right. I finally talked to my mom for the first time in a month. Okay. And I love her. So maybe we need to start flipping the tiers, and the middle tier is the BCBA, and maybe it becomes 4 tiers. Okay. But the top tier, I will start focusing on the top tier for you kids. So can you guys just keep doing that bottom? All right. And maybe it's time to talk about can we disperse these experts to be able to provide targeted, funded supervision for all of the BCBAs so that it's not topping out at that level and that it's actually built into the service model. And it doesn't need to be telehealth, but I'm just saying that opens up an opportunity for us to look at this. And by the way, guys, this all happened coming out of the medical model, right? I originally trained at Kennedy Krieger. There was the BCBA didn't care as much at the time. That wasn't an issue, but believe me, the top level people were not at the BCBA level, right? Like the top level people were everyone from De Leon to Sung Kong to Hagopian to Lynn Bowman, and they would all sit in a room together, and like it was crazy. Like those were the people supervising the BCBAs. That many of them. So that's the model that Justin came from. So my babbling end is perhaps we all need to reconsider our tiers and start to try to find ways to secure funding and support to actually financially support the small percentage of BCBAs that we would all come to agree should be at the top tier, while you guys keep working, and I will as well, on the bottom tier. But needless to say, I'm not working on an online training for direct staff right now. That project got put just a little to the side.
I think I also want to point out, at the risk of it sounding like a shameless plug, we're not just doing the bottom down. We also at APF help develop a sort of.
Of course, you guys do. I was trying to talk to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Like our goal.
I was shamelessly pugging for you, actually. So I'm sad that came off differently.
Yeah,
I know you guys have that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm saying you have the entire thing. We know that. And you invested resources. And I know you guys have already released that. Do the shameless plug. That's fine. I didn't say it correctly. I wasn't talking to you guys there. I was trying to address the people that Sarah's clearly trying to reach and that I think is coming up in this situation right now, and saying, all right, because I'm sure they're all reading it and being like, thanks. A lot of people have told me to email someone or call someone, and that person doesn't get back to me. And let's be real, Sarah, fine, we're going to be real. Let's be freaking real, because you did this. You launched this amazing mentorship program through Calaba, and you like put a ton of time and effort in it, right? I will be honest. I am very sorry. I don't know if I'm supposed to say sorry or not. Never mind. I'm not going to say what I was about to say. I am supporting an organization right now that also a year later decided to launch their own mentorship thing. And maybe we need to get away from the mentorship title and start thinking, not get away from, because we all love it. That's how we are, but recognizing the numbers right now and the vast majority of people practicing that they're not even looking for mentorship. So do we just tell them that by definition, there is a billable category above you that knows way more? And do we start fighting for that? And I don't know. Sorry, maybe that wasn't the right direction to go. I don't know. Sarah, tell me something. You guys are all staring at me all creepily.
No. But I did want Joe and Justin to be able to just kind of talk about how the credential that you guys developed, just because I know that this was, I mean, years and years of work, and just kind of why you guys chose to do that. I think that'd be helpful. And also just because a lot of the people in the chat have asked for some information about it as well.
Yeah, well, Justin, feel free to chime in with anything that you think that I left out. But the name of the credential, we developed the Progressive Behavior Analyst Autism Council, and I want to say it's independent from Autism Partnership Foundations, and I'm trying not to sound too pluggy here. But essentially what was developed is the Certified Progressive Behavior Analyst, and at the tier that we're looking at is a doctoral level. So it's not necessarily something that's competing with other credentials that are out. It's autism specific. We're wanting to identify those people that are experts in autism intervention, specifically as it relates to a progressive approach to behavior analysis, and make it easier for people to be able to find those people to train with. So if there's some marker there for you to say, oh, I know what type of training I'm going to get with this person, it's easier for me to seek out that. And I know what their credential means, and I know what their competency level is, because part of the performance, or part of the credential is actually a performance-based assessment. So we're trying to shift to where we can put our money where our mouth is, right? We're talking about all these problems, and we want to try to develop some of the solutions. And that's one of a potential solution. There's definitely lots of other solutions, and it's going to take more than just us doing this, because we don't see that there's going to be necessarily a lot of people that would seek out this level of certification, because it's pretty stringent. It's pretty tough in terms of what you have to go through to be able to access it. We're looking like the master sommeliers. And so if I want to know about wine, I'm going to go seek out a master sommelier to teach me about wine. Thank you, Justin, right on cue. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. So if you want to know more about that, I'll end my shameless plug. It's progressivebehavioranalyst.org. You can find out everything you need to know about it there.
I'll just continue that I'm drinking from the Ferrari of wine glasses right now, which thank you, Toby Montjoy, for teaching me about in Hong Kong. Yeah, just really quick, and I'll try doing 3 sentences. We're looking at 10,000 hours here. So 10,000 hours of experience, 8,000 post-master's experience, and a 2-part exam, a traditional multiple choice exam, where you do questions, multiple choice questions. With the multiple choice exam, you have video scenarios. So you have to look at videos of what's going on and then answer questions. And the second part, as Joe alluded to, was a performance exam as well. So that's one way, but that's just one of the ways. And I think what we've tried to establish here, and what Calab is establishing, or what Cobb is establishing, Sarah, what you're establishing in like the Pat Fryman videos and others that we're seeing, is just ways that we can collectively come and take our expertise and move the field forward, continue to make progress. Because at the end of the day, it's not about APF or a CABA or a CalABA. It's really about the clients that we serve and making sure that we're providing the best quality intervention to those clients and those families. I think we all have great ideas. We're all very good at what we do. And I think we do need to be collaborative and come together and push forward, but also at the same time, individually pushing forward with their stuff. So I know, Rachel, I saw your CABA, I don't know if it was through CalABA or through the BACB. There was the blast the other day, or through you, about telehealth. That's great. That's something that you've been really doing well and you have expertise in. And that's something that people should be really clamoring to. I think Sarah, when we took that original picture was the night before we went to Los Angeles to do it. I think one of your many talents is taking behavior analysis to the general public. And I think the general public has no clue what we're doing. And right now no one cares about anything besides COVID-19. But in general, they don't know what they're doing. I think that video, my comments in those videos, where I don't care what behavior analysts think about this. I don't care about the CEUs. Like, you can frame this in a way where the general public will start knowing what we do. I think that's important. I think what we're doing at APF with the certification, with the RBT training, with the academy, with this will be my shameless plug, Rants with Justin and Joe, are trying to shape the field. I think the people who are commenting, I see Adele commenting, I've seen Missy Olive commenting, I've seen others, the Ottawa contingent of 65 people here, they're also pushing it along. And I think that's what it's at the end of the day. It's not about us and our egos and differing opinions, and we can have that dialogue, but it's about how we can help children and adolescents and adults with autism and their families.
And I've been thinking about this as you guys have all been talking, and I think for right now, especially in our current environment, I've been doing all of these Calcella webinars, and you guys, it's been really fun for me and heartening. We've had 500 to 700 people on every presentation. Like, Stu Libman did an amazing presentation on using the ACT matrix to this morning. Next week we have all of these great presenters and so many people. And Rachel was the Calaba conference chair. This was heartbreaking for us to not have this conference. And I have shed many, many tears over the effects that it's having on the California Association for Behavior Analysis and over the current state of our field, especially in California, because we, I think, have been really hit first by coronavirus. And for a lot of you in other areas, you will probably be in a similar position to where we are right now in our state. But one thing has become very clear to me in the last 2 weeks, and this is something that I hope that never changes and goes back again. And it's this. I have never seen people more willing to collaborate and to share resources and to talk to each other in the same way that's happened in the last couple of weeks here. People before, and it makes me emotional to think about it, that would say, well, this is our way of doing things, or you can't have this, or this is, what we're doing. And I think that we have all had to stop and recognize, to your point, Justin, that ultimately we are totally and utterly responsible for making sure that the things that we do are effective for that sweet child that's sitting across from us, that adult that might have really challenging behaviors that need support, for the staff that work for us. And so, to me, I think that we're actually turning a corner in behavior analysis. I think we're becoming less of an asshole, and realizing that our collective humanity and the work that we do is so important, and the need to do it well is so great, that we are putting aside our egos. We are sharing resources in a way that I have never seen shared before. And I don't ever want us to go back to the way it was before. I don't. Because our kids and our adults and our field and the people with autism that we serve and their families don't have time for our crap. They don't. And so I am just so excited that, if nothing else, that this is really providing and occasioning and evoking this kind of shared resources, these great journal articles that have just been rushed through behavior analysis and practice today to give ideas that are grounded in ACT for parents of just any kid, that are providing us with ethical frameworks for thinking about how to provide services. To have these conversations, and that makes me hopeful. That makes me really hopeful.
I think that, as someone said, this is a mic drop moment, Sarah, and I wish we could end, but we still have our obligation. I want to hit upon 2 points that you said.
Okay.
I absolutely agree with collaboration. I think we should be collaborative. I know sometimes it might appear that I'm not collaborative. Someone brought social.
Well, you're a curmudgeon, but you are.
Curmudgeon, or Eeyore was one of the key words possibly today. That's because that's my personality. Tigger is Joe's personality. But I want to talk about, I want 2 points, and I want to say them both, and then we can dive into whatever or go to a different topic. You can be collaborative and have disagreements. And you can be collaborative and not agree eye to eye. I think that's the beauty of this panel. I'll go back to my mentor, Jim Sherman, no one knows. And his colleague at Washington at the time was Todd Risley, who I think most people know who Risley is. And my most fascinating times with the gym was, I guess, bar talks, or really just sitting in an office talking to him. And he used to talk about how him and Todd would get in like almost fist fight arguments over the concepts of behavior analysis or perspective. And at the end of the day, they understand that they're just having differing opinions. They usually come to solution, and then they would go out to the bar and actually drink. And I'm worried. I see a lot of times today, if someone has a differing opinion, and they might not state it properly, I know I'm probably bad at this as well. That's why I have to have Joe or Julia or Christine look at what I'm going to post a lot of times before I state something on social media, is that you can have differing opinions. It doesn't mean you not value the person, or or that you think the person's incompetent. It's just that you come from a different perspective. So I hope that we can remain collaborative, but understand that we're not always going to agree, and it's okay to have disagreements. It's okay to publicly have those disagreements. That's what shapes our field. The second point, just because I want to get these are like my 2 points I wanted to get in, is with COVID-19, I don't want anyone in this room or that comes access this to forget about the kids we serve. And some of those kids are what we call higher functioning. They need social skills, and research has shown us, clinical experience has shown us that they, display loneliness, severe depression, thoughts of suicide. I think one study a few years ago said that adolescents with autism, high functioning autism, are 28 times more likely to commit suicide than regular adolescents. And so, although I agree with a lot of what Broadhead put in his article and what Steve talked about earlier, there might be times that we do have to serve higher functioning children with autism, adolescents, or adults live. Because if they're depressed or lonely or suicidal, all they have to do is flip down the computer and walk away. And we don't know what liability is going to happen. Not only liability, like I don't care about insurance liability, which we have to worry about, but what's going to happen to that child. And so some of the risk, I see a lot of times, I see this in some states that I work in, the risk always focuses on those who are aggressive or self-injurious. There's other risks. There's emotional risk as well, and we have to be aware of that.
I just want to jump in and say that I 100% agree with both of those points. And to your first point, skepticism is part of science. Just because you're skeptical of something doesn't mean that you're actively going against our science, or you're actively going against someone in our field, or you're causing these fractions or these splits within our field. It's okay to be a healthy skeptic. That's part of being a good scientist. So continue to do that. And I think this is a nice example of how you can do that, because there's been disagreements during this, and we've been able to come to solutions. And I think having this modeled for people to see how you can disagree and come to a solution and come to potentially a better solution than you would if you didn't have that disagreement in the first place is nice. That was modeled for me in my graduate training. Justin, I know it was modeled for you. I won't speak for the other people on the panel. But so I think that's important. And I think right now I'm skeptical of a lot of the telehealth stuff. I think Sarah sent us some prompts, and one of them was, how do we do telehealth right? And I know that's a big thing right now. And I think when someone asks me how we do telehealth right, I think that there are very few that can answer that question, at least with respect to the literature. Just search for telehealth in our journals. Every ABAI journal, if you search all of them, you'll get 30 results. 30.
All right. What time are we ending? Because I'm going to have to cut you off, Joe.
Hold on. That's not a lot. And I'm not saying you're not doing telehealth great. I'm
not defending myself. You're just
I'm
making
saying
be skeptical because I think you guys need to spend a little bit more time listening to me. I'm kidding. Go. I'm kidding.
No, as you should. But I think just being skeptical of things like that right now might seem like you're not caring, or you're not wanting people to meet their best outcomes or something along those lines. But that doesn't necessarily mean that at all. It's being a good scientist by saying, well, our literature hasn't caught up to what has been forced upon us right now. So continue to be skeptics, even though there's this wealth of information that's out. And I think the other piece that because I'm the Tigger, is I want to thank everybody all about these resources. Everybody that's here right now is the reason why we can make some of these resources available. All the people that have donated their registrations to CalABA are the reason why CalABA can continue to make things available for you. Everyone that's donated to APF is one of the reasons why we have a free RBT training. I'm sorry, Rachel, I don't know enough about CABA to be able to speak to you, but I want to thank everybody that's continually helping make these resources continually available for everyone, and either free or at a discounted rate.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. And I don't want to be the one to, let's see if I can do it. Thank you for trying to acknowledge CABA. CABA started with a $50,000 loan from my mommy and daddy 5 years ago that I paid back. And other than that, we don't have anything. So I appreciate it very much. It means that I don't make as much money as a lot of other agency owners because I do pay so many high level people that are non-billable, but I appreciate you asking. Okay. A couple of things. I wasn't going to do a shameless plug. I actually had no interest in doing this, but I'm based on what you guys said. I'm like, oh, maybe what I'm saying is helpful. So there is a Dr. Taylor YouTube channel, guys. I'm only saying it because we started it because I needed to get information to my BCBAs regarding transition to telehealth. I don't want to say I'm fortunate, but CABA was in a very unique position because there was no question as to whether or not some of our services were essential and required. We operate homes. We operate severe challenging behavior lines that we are specifically there because of the risk of hospitalization to the individual, and we're in their personal home 24/7, not including the 4 other traditional community living homes that we operate, and quote unquote traditional ABA, social skills, community-based day program, but it's all ABA. So of course I've had to look very differently at these issues, probably than most other small agency owners, to say the least. I'm not going to get into that, but I will plug it because I'd like you guys to watch it, because I have not been shy about being absolutely terrified of the transition to telehealth process and all of this. And I think that we really need to acknowledge that it is happening right now. And I will kind of try to wrap up what I said earlier when I was being kind of weird. When I was like, wait, I figured it out. I'll start focusing on the tops here. Guys, I wasn't like, let's just stop. All right. You have to recognize that I have direct staff members that work in community living homes that are DSPs. Like, I'm already trying to think about whether or not I need the National Guard to come in to help my individuals. Like, that's the reality of what I'm dealing with. So when I'm thinking about 4 tiers, I'm like, okay, then above that, we would have the RBT. Then above that, we'd have the BCBA. And now where are my brilliant people? So like, I'm just in a totally different headspace. But I want to emphasize that the reason why I am confident right now to try to take on some of these issues and try to be very open about saying I'm concerned about the transition to telehealth, besides the fact that I clearly have to do it with some of my clients, is because there are amazing scientists like you guys that are continuing to focus on that work that needs to happen, that is going to take longer. So please don't think in a second when I'm doing my Mayday drills that I'm at all diminishing wanting you guys to do that. So I just want to say thank you guys for continuing that work, and hopefully that kind of perspective helped a little bit. But I do encourage you to watch it because I actually said all of that. And I'd be curious to hear your opinion, Joe, in particular. So I'll send you a couple links.
So that's my cue. Sorry, Sarah. I guess Rachel gets the last
word. I know we need to do some heavy reinforcement of a very special lady right now. Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of my pet peeves, I will end on my pet peeves, is in conferences when people are talking, they head to the door to scan out while like the presenter is still going on. It annoys me. And the good thing about live streaming is you can't do that until I give you the key word. So I get the key word until the very last minute. I want to thank the 450 plus people who attended today. Yes. Your flexibility on this has been amazing. There was a time right after CalABA canceled. We were at CalABA. Rachel and Sarah saw the 3 of us here, and we were considering canceling this conference. They saw me almost in tears at some point about what to do, how to manage this. It has been stressful. We thought we'd get no one. The amount of people showing up is just a testament to how strong our field is. So thank you all. The woman who is joining me is someone who you don't see do the day in and day out hard work. I mentioned her in the beginning. I had to bring her in at the end. Julie Stiglich is what made this conference happen. There's no question about it. Joe and I just get to look good because of the work that Julie Stiglich has done. She has been up every night. I go to bed. She's in Indiana. I go to bed at 2 a.m. and I might text her. It's 5 a.m. and she's still not asleep. She's managing this conference, and she's managing to keep AP staff and kids getting services. So if you are drinking alcohol or not, here's a glass. Here's a toast.
Oh, Julie.
To Julie.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you to everyone, the presenters, the registrants, attendees who come every year. We hope to see you next year. Please join us in Southern California next April. Please.
So with that, the closing word, keyword is David. D-A-V-I-D. David. David's the closing word. David, 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 David. Thank you guys for everything. Go have your virtual happy hours. Back to your families.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for inviting me.